This is the Armchair Science Podcast with El Takumi and Zokya Media. Welcome, everyone, to the Armchair Science Podcast. I'm El Takumi.
And I'm Zokya Media.
And here we are streaming on Sunday, our new live time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch. This is going to be. I think this might actually work out a lot better as a time slot, just for both of our schedules, because we've been Wednesday just always seems recently to just be a jacked up day for me.
Yeah.
Busy schedules.
Work's been dogging it. Plus now we can go Sunday.
Sunday science stream. We got a little bit of alliteration going there. But it would definitely be. I don't know. I think this might work out. I think this might be a new good time for us, especially with both of us being crazy with work. It might just work out better this way, and it really doesn't matter when we do it. It's short. We can do it as long as we're both free. That's what matters. And since you are doing a Sunday stream afterwards, which everyone should definitely go follow Zokya Media on Twitch if if you haven't already, so that way you can go see the cool stuff that they do. I say that like you're not in the room, or in the you're not in the same room as me, but
I'm never all here, you know.
yeah, who is nowadays? But we are going to go ahead and move on with our first story. So this week there's been a lot of developments in science news just in the last month, and we're not even really scratching the surface. But we're gonna talk about some cool stuff today. So starting off, got some little satellite images up on here. So
Ooh.
big ol' explosion.
That's what happens when you try to program a VCR.
Is that was that's your first guess as to what this giant explosion is?
Well, I looked at the show notes and Disaster Dome may have already given it away, so I'm just going to make snarky comments.
No, I like this better. Or I like that better. So, the explosive volcanic eruption in Tonga, which happened last Saturday, so 7 days previous to when I think that's how numbers and days work, but anyways, a week ago. And it was one of the largest volcanic eruptions that's been picked up in a long time. But it actually dwarfed the size of some nuclear detonation tests that have been conducted, and the group that actually monitors said things, what is known as the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, or for short CTBTO. It's a very short acronym, very rolls off the tongue. Which was set up in 1996 to actually monitor nuclear weapons tests, but it actually picked up this volcanic eruption. Now, off of atmospheric measurements in Austria, so not Australia, Austria, so pretty much around the world, 10,000 miles away from the eruption site, detected a shockwave that was 2 hectopascals in strength. So by comparison, 2 hectopascals was what the volcano was. The largest nuclear test ever recorded was just shy of 0.7 hectopascals. So we're looking at double the atmospheric, at a minimum double, the atmospheric disturbance caused by a volcano versus the largest nuclear test that's ever been measured in the same regard. So you got to give it a ballpark estimate here of just around 10 to 50 megatons, which doesn't actually match up with the numbers that I got from biggest nuclear tests ever, but this is just what I'm getting from a multitude of sources. But oof, we're looking at, this is not a zoomed in image of that we're looking at here. This is like, several hundred miles of just smoke, of clouds being pushed out, lots of disturbance. You can even see the transition from day to night in that period of time. So a good large scale explosion. Of course, there was also some tsunamis created in Tonga. The actual island itself is actually kind of interesting. The whole events leading up to this. So it was this little island right here, which is known as, I'm going to say this totally wrong, Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai. I'm yeah
Is there that
I
many Dunga Ungas in there?
yes, and I
Oh,
unfortunately don't. I probably slaughtered that, and I feel bad, but it remains a bit of a mystery as to what the root cause would be. But we're seeing a GIF here of just the before and after, or not a before and after, but rather the month back in November. So we're looking what 3 months ago versus what it looks like today. And there was what's theorized is
wow.
that a bunch of seawater more or less kind of flooded down into the magma chamber, and just the way with anything when water expands, when magma or comes into contact with seawater, you have a lot of expansion, and if you have the right circumstances, more or less, it almost looks like this island is blowing up like a balloon, which is not entirely you know, not entirely
A
like
rock balloon.
hard to suggest here. Yeah, big rock balloon. So, uh, big explosion, lots of lots of damage, lots of just. I mean, it's cool. It's too bad that people got hurt in the thing. And it's one thing to keep in mind that the planet Earth, all the things that humanity has built, can absolutely just be wiped out the moment the Earth wants to. It's just the immense amount of power just contained within our home is unprecedented. So maybe just maybe we treat it with a little more respect. Then again, I don't think this happened as a result of us polluting or anything like that. That's a little bit outlandish, but still,
Yeah,
nonetheless, a
then
lot of terrible
then we
power.
find out that Nestle's been taking water from under there or something, and it all makes sense.
It would be Nestle. Of all the companies in the world that would cause some type of reaction of the planet Earth to like revolt and come out and destroy us, it would be Nestle, and they're probably looking for water. That or it'd be some energy company, and they've unlocked. Isn't that like kind of somewhat like the story of like Doom, like the video game Doom? That effectively
Oh
they
gosh, I don't
unlock
know.
hell on Mars or whatever, and
Oh, I
they're
knew
trying
that
to
part.
they're
Yeah.
trying to like extract the energy, like the hell demon energy. But yeah, I don't know. My Steam notifications going off down there. That's really fun. Um, anyway, very cool. Lots of cool stuff with volcanoes, which are always cool. But now we're gonna move on to something a little more extraterrestrial. Um,
Wow.
what we've got now is Sotheby's in Dubai unveiled a 555.55 carat black diamond thought to have originated from outer space. Now, the auction house at
Well,
Sotheby's,
hey, to be fair, all diamonds originate in outer space. I mean, like ultimately,
there,
but
yeah, but it's just more or less formed after the fact, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
So here, this rare gem, weighing in at 555.55 carats, which is done on purpose, I guess. Which is, I don't know, I get it. It's also got something like 55 faces, which is another
Oh,
interesting little thing on this. Believed to have come from outer space, codenamed the Enigma, which is a rare gem that is on tour in Dubai, and it's set to be auctioned off later next month. And Sotheby's expects the diamond to be sold for at least 5 million. The auction house plans to accept cryptocurrency as
oh,
possible payment as
good.
well.
How
Which
about NFTs?
how many
How about yeah, a picture of the actual
how
rock
many
would be
monkey
about enough.
JPEGs do I have to
Yeah,
trade to get this diamond? Which we could talk about crypto later, for sure, because there's tons of stories around surrounding crypto, and I actually wanted to do some in this podcast, but I actually feel like we could dedicate an entire podcast just to crypto. I think that would be really fun. So if you're not following, if you're not subscribed, if you're not doing all that already, make sure you're followed and subscribed so that way you don't miss that, because that's going to be a fun one. Um, but these types of diamonds are what are known as carbonado diamonds, if I'm saying that right. And it's believed that they were formed in space, essentially meteorites colliding with the Earth and forming basically like a chemical vapor, and the parts become deposited, and overall, they're there. Now, black diamonds do actually form naturally here on Earth, both in Brazil and in Central Africa, and the this cosmic origin theory is kind of based on the reason why they think this is space is just due to the carbon isotopes that exist within said diamond. So it's a little bit difference here. Now, my thoughts on this is, Soki, I think you know as well as I do that diamonds are utterly useless and they're utterly worthless. They're
Well, I mean, they do have some uses, but not the value at which they're
the
placed at,
uses
right?
that they have are just more like their properties, and the types that we sell for so much aren't the types that we use for those types of purposes, unless I'm sorely mistaken. But it's like diamonds are their price already is just artificially inflated as a result of
Yeah,
the De Beers Corporation and the De Beers Corporation, who
yeah.
effectively employs slaves to mine diamonds and sell them at overly inflated costs. And
And don't forget the 1-2 punch. I mean, they did all that, which is the bigger issue, but like no small part of it was also essentially a uh, you know marketing campaign aggressively generated here that made everyone believe that diamonds and like the way to propose to
right,
someone for like since time immemorial. That's a relatively new concept and also a very localized concept.
yeah, no, diamond. The thing is, like, diamonds are not exactly even rare, and the best part is like we use them for useful purposes all the time, but they're man made. But there's virtually, in fact, the man-made ones, you can make ones that are effectively flawless, the ones that would be the more valuable diamonds. But the De Beers Corporation has made, even, it was a CNN like news story, I believe, where it was like source De Beers about this whole thing of people are not seeing lab made diamonds as authentic or as having as much like personal value. Like they were just it's like source De Beers. It's
So,
like, well, of course,
so essentially, they're rock-based NFTs.
more or less, yeah. The only difference is you don't even get a certificate with these. Well, actually,
Uh,
you might with this big one. I'm sure they could at least do
yeah,
that for
this
you.
one you would. Yeah, well, this one I can understand having a certain amount of value. Like, I'm all on board in distant diamonds and stuff, but I mean, this is a cool specimen,
It's cool.
right?
Like it'd be like if I found like a diamond on the ground, I'd be like, this is a really freaking cool rock. And dude, look how hard this is. Like I can scratch just about anything with it. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Other than that, diamonds are just I don't. I'm not saying that if you buy diamonds, you're a bad person, because I'd be a hypocrite because I bought diamonds too. Like when I bought Beaver Fever's um that went in her ring. Now, given uh
Look, you can have all the principles that you want, but as soon as your partner that you love very much wants something, like all bets are
oh
off.
yeah, 100%.
Right, like that's how
Eh,
it works.
right.
Like, I need you to go kill that like baby goat over there. Like, oh, all right. Uh, actually,
I went
actually,
to
maybe
a
that's
whole
a
other
bad
extreme.
example.
Hey, go kill that goat. No. But so we're talking about this big old diamond. Who do you think's gonna buy it? What do you think they're gonna do with it?
Gosh, probably someone we haven't heard of that has lots of money from oil, and
Probably,
then uh, either put it in their personal collection or I don't know, maybe put it on display in the building hotel they own or something like that.
probably. Yeah, and it's like, here's this
I guess.
giant diamond, and I'm just gonna put it in a box, and we can look at it. I mean, unless they decide to cut it up and turn it into, like smaller pieces of jewelry. But
Oh,
hard
screw that! Just make that one giant ring top. That's the way you go with that
50
sucker. Just put it
555
on
carats.
there.
I mean,
Just
imagine
rock
the
that.
brass knuckles, the damage you could do with brass knuckles that had like big
Watch
old
it, YouTube.
diamonds on the end there.
Beaver, I was being good. Look, disaster don't Beaver Fever. I'm not trying to get in trouble. I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm saying I'd do anything for you. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we for those of you who are not watching live, both of our partners are out in out in Chatland and giving us crap right now, which we might deserve a little bit because we didn't give
It,
them
I take
555 carat
full.
diamonds.
Yeah, I'll take the full brunt of this. This is entirely my shenanigans.
You heard it here, folks. This is all Zokya's fault.
It's recorded. It's now fact.
Well, moving on then to some interesting developments in science, and we've done the whole podcast on Ig Nobel and uh, and other things, and I feel like this one may actually kind of be a good candidate for that. Now, Israeli scientists, they have done is they have trained a goldfish to drive. So something like a scene out of like a Dr. Seuss book. Just picture this: a goldfish swimming in a square tank on wheels as it rolls deliberately from one side of the room to the other. And effectively, what they did was attach some equipment and some basic robotics, and that monitored the fish and tried to determine, if a fish, a goldfish, more particularly, could effectively navigate on land. Now, the animal behavior experiment was done at Israel's Ben Gurion University, and I'm probably sure I said that wrong as well, where researchers have successfully trained several goldfish to operate robotic vehicles and in an effort to explore whether or not their species is capable of navigating on land. And it turns out that they just might be, according to the findings published in the Behavioral Brain Research Journal. Study hints, this is in quotations here, the study hints that the navigational ability is universal rather than specific to the environment. And one of the paper's authors also said that it shows that the goldfish had the cognitive ability to learn a complex task in an environment completely unlike the one they evolved in. As anyone who's tried to learn how to ride a bike or drive a car knows, it's challenging at first. But here's the real question. Zokya, do you think we could teach ants how to drive?
I had a feeling this question was coming.
What?
I I don't. Well, all right. So, firstly, I want to say, I mean, I'm looking at this, and I get kind of get what they're saying, but also at the same time, like, how is this to the fish so extraordinarily different than swimming between two rocks? They're in the same plane. Now, I guess it can't go up and over a thing, right? Is it really? Is it really that different? Now, that being said, I'm all for this. I think this is great, and I think they missed an opportunity to make it like look like a tank with a goldfish on top. I think that would have been excellent. Though I understand they didn't want it to be, rotating, whatever. It's got to go in the direction the fish is swimming. All that being said, it makes me want to experiment with the ants. I don't know. Here's the thing: you'd want one ant, because if you have the whole colony, it's going to be a mess all over the place. Which ant do you follow, right?
Right.
You do the percentage of it, and the percentage is going to be wherever the ants are, like wherever there's food or the scents. So it has to be one ant. It's a little bit cruel to separate an ant from its colony, but I mean, for a small experiment like this, might be worth it. I guess it all comes down to how far can they see, right? Which I don't believe the ants can actually see very far, and they operate almost entirely on smell. Some
Well,
have pretty good vision, but I think it's up close vision. I don't think they can see very
would it
far.
necessarily have to be vision or them moving towards like some type of source stimuli? Like if there was, because I
Mm,
know that ants have the ability to sense other things at a much
yeah,
greater range. They, can effectively smell and do what else. And um, yeah, I mean, I don't see why there's any reason why we couldn't. I mean, let's just try. I mean,
yeah.
use very similar software to kind of like what they do for tracking them, and put that in a I don't know, put the
It'd even be easier than
environment
that. If you do one ant, you really don't even have to track the ant, so
right.
to speak. You just, I mean, just thinking it through, and I'm sure there's complexities that haven't occurred to me. But you like white box with a white floor. I'm sorry, like clear box with a white floor, and you have the camera pointing down it like they've got here, and you just say, okay, where's the black dot? Going that direction, right? That's where
Hmm.
the ant's going.
Yeah, absolutely, and just have a. I mean, like I said, you could have some I don't know, some food or something that would I don't know, find some way for them to track towards it. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it'd be really
Have you
cool.
Have you seen that thing where they put mouse neurons inside of robots?
Yes.
Uh, yeah, and did we talk about that
We
on the
I
show?
don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but we've
Oh,
talked about it before.
yeah,
And if we could effectively have, even I wonder if like an ant's like neurological system we could like actually set up to turn into a robot.
yeah.
I mean,
But the one thing with ants, though, is those brains are pretty small to work with. Just ask Balint.
yeah, I mean, actually maybe he's the one we need to be hitting up for this. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you got to help us figure out how to make our ant robot army so we can take over the world. I mean, totally not. So, because it would be really cool and a really good opportunity for science. Totally not for any nefarious means. Anyways, moving on. Actually, earlier this month, so if we're going to talk about some more life science developments, doctors successfully did the first successful transplant of a genetically modified pig heart into a human. So doctors transplanted the pig heart into a patient, a last ditch effort to save his life in a Maryland hospital. And after a few days after this initially posted, he's doing fine still. An experimental surgery. It's really too soon to tell. This is according to the doctors involved. That's really too soon to tell if the operation will really work. But this is just a further result of a decades-long quest to use animal organs for life-saving transplants. Doctors at the University of Maryland Medical Center say that the transplant showed that a heart from a genetically modified animal can function in a human without immediate rejection. So the patient, named David Bennett, age 57, knew that there was no guarantee the experiment would work, but he was dying and ineligible for a human heart transplant and had no other option. So it was either die or do the transplant. And shot in the dark, last choice, but it seems to be holding up pretty decent so far. And let's think about the actual like infrastructure that goes into organ transplants in general, because it's not just hearts, it's kidneys, it's livers, it's you name it. If there's a part on you that might go bad and it needs to get swapped out, the current infrastructure that goes is effectively you need to wait for someone to die of a completely unrelated means and be, first of all, an organ donor and get the way bodily autonomy works after death. Family can there's a lot of legal stuff there, and by the time you actually get an actual eligible person who's willing to donate, they have to be a match, and then there's the logistics involved in getting there. So as a result, it's not exactly surprising that getting an organ or a transplant is hard and very expensive and very uncertain, and especially in a weird medical times like now with COVID-19 pandemic, etc. That there's more and more people who are having um, multiple system issues, and the demands for organs have never been higher. So you either have to get one off the black market, which has, some ethical consequences. What if we could use animals and genetically modify them to uh, resemble more of what we'd want, a human one to look like? So that way the body would have less chance of rejecting it. And now we have a stable supply of organs. I don't know how vegans would feel about this.
There might be some ethical considerations here.
Some ethical considerations at the same time, though. Imagine if I don't care who you are, but if you're sitting there dying and you need a new heart and, they can pull one out of a pig, I'm sure someone would absolutely make a little bit of a compromise. And I think there's a lot of, not only is this an important medical advancement, I feel like there's uh, a lot of potential for some uh, really really important life changing things that could happen with this, because it doesn't just start and stop with hearts. Like I said, other organs or even things that would be possibly less of a critical life saving thing, more of a something to improve somebody's life, not just because the way to get an organ now to be at the top of the list, you have to be someone who is pretty close to dying. Like, and that's not ideal for anyone. We shouldn't be having to wait until someone's at that critical point. Like, which once again, like I said, as hard as it is to get hearts, as hard as it is to get any organ, um, it's going to be a hard time. Now, last year there were just over 3,800 heart transplants in the United States, which was actually a record number. Um, and that's according to the United Network for Organ Sharing, which oversees the transplant system.
Do you think
And
part of that is because I know during COVID for a while, like all that stuff was shut down and a lot of procedures were like held off. So is that like a catch up thing, maybe?
could be possibly that the first year kind of um, held off on some, but at the same time too, it could also be just a number of cases of people with heart difficulties, um, or people just dying from unrelated reasons where their heart's totally okay.
Yeah. Or even COVID related heart strain. Who knows?
Yeah. So I'm reading in the chat. Did they talk about how the recipient stabbed a guy? No, I did not. It does not say anything about that, but that's something we'll have to research. I'll be curious. First guy who gets a pig heart stabbed somebody. What? No, well, maybe that's somewhat different. Maybe that's a different story because I feel like we're about to get hit for slander or something. That we said that the guy who got the organ transplant stabbed somebody, but it's interesting to me. I feel like there's a lot of important developments as someone who I don't know. I'm thinking right now of just of the pandemic, the number of people who already need lung transplants.
Yeah.
Um, what if we did lungs next? I don't know how dissimilar a pig's lungs are from a human's, but I mean, better pig lungs than no lungs.
We're pretty much pigs, right? If it's one thing I keep hearing about is how similar we are to pigs. That's I'm sure that they're pretty close.
I think anatomically speaking, yeah, pretty darn close. And I don't know. That's
You know, it'd be funny. Obviously, it wouldn't happen, but like, what if we found out, like, oh, whoops, we got it wrong. Actually, we're not evolved from. I was going to say monkeys, but that's a misnomer because it's
we're just
actually apes,
pigs
right?
that learn to
We're
stand up
we're actually evolved from pigs. It's like, oh, huh, well,
from something more pig-like, or we share a common ancestor. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I'm actually looking at this right now. The link got shared in the thing, and I'll actually bring it up on the stream here. The ethics of a second chance pig heart transplant recipient stabbed a man 7 times years ago. Damn. So yeah,
Oh well, okay. See, I have to admit, when Beaver Fever first said that, the image I had in my head is like they give this guy a pig heart transplant, and he's like, well. Now I have the need to stab someone. This pig heart is speaking to me. But you're talking about he stabbed somebody before,
yeah.
right? Is that
But this kind of begs the question then: do criminals deserve to, or someone who has done something like this? I'm trying to like quick read through it, but if you are a person who did some bad stuff, do you not deserve to live? Do you not deserve to be eligible for an organ transplant?
I mean, that's a big question, and probably not the right one for a science podcast here. But
Probably
I
not.
will, I will drop one of my personal opinions here that somebody who was a convicted criminal should be in line before somebody, depending on what the reason is for you in the hospital, who turned down something like a vaccine.
Yeah. No, especially if it was
Willingly.
if you're in line for a lung transplant and you didn't get vaccinated, I mean that's probably
And it's COVID related, and it
yeah,
wasn't like
if it's a COVID related thing and you put yourself in that standpoint, I mean I don't think that's a controversial take at all. It's just like the same way that if you are a person who was an alcoholic, your personal choices made it so you now have liver disease, and now you're last in line to get a new liver. That doesn't seem a whole too controversial to me, but at the same time, wouldn't it be? I'm going to come from the standpoint that more empathetic. That what if we had enough organs for everybody? That even if you were, you did make mistakes when you were younger, that you do get to save them. I mean, I'm kind of the mind we should probably try and save everybody. I feel like that's if we're going to talk about
Yeah.
from a medical ethics standpoint, I think that what should be the gold standard is uh, not saving who we think deserves it the most, but being able to save everybody. Maybe that's a little more of a controversial take, uh, but I would say in general, um, this is a good thing. This is an important thing. I feel like this is really good science that has led to at least an opportunity for somebody. And if it leads to down the line more people being saved, I'm all for it. But I think the whole medical ethics question is actually we could do a whole podcast on that one. Well, we need someone who's a little more qualified to talk about that than you and I.
Yeah.
But moving on and some more health news. There's some hopeful outlook for vaccines for kids under the age 5 in the next coming months, being approved for use in a much smaller dose. So Pfizer plans to submit the data to the FDA in the first half of 22, and it's a 3-dose study that uses 3 micrograms of the vaccine versus what a normal human dose would be 30 micrograms. So you're looking
Okay.
at about a tenth of that, but it's in 3 doses as opposed to just 2. Um, the reason why this is important is because we are seeing increases in hospitalizations for children ages 0 to 4. Yeah, as you know, children under the age of 5 are not eligible to receive the vaccine. So as a result, they are a population that is at risk. Now, nearly 8 out of every 100,000 children under 5 years old who were hospitalized with COVID as of January 8th were more than double the rate in early December before the Omicron became the dominant variant in the US. So, um, the important thing is just like once again, just as a reminder uh, to anyone out there, if you're vaccine hesitant, I can't make your choices for you. But what I will tell you is that the more of us who are vaccinated, the more of us who are boosted, the more that we actually protect these little ones who are not yet able to get the vaccine. So keep that in mind when making your choice. At the same time, I think it's a really good thing that parents might be able to vaccinate their very young children, hopefully in the next couple months, pending if the vaccine actually gets approval. So I'm not science literate enough to look at their study to actually determine what any kind of real efficacy or the benefit or there. That's for actual doctors to decide. But here on the Armchair Science podcast, we are not doctors, nor do we pretend to be. But we do like to listen to the doctors, and we'll regurgitate all the things that they say.
Absolutely. And one thing that I think is not open for debate is that that mask that that kid has is absolutely bitching.
With the dinosaur and stuff on the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I definitely feel like I could benefit from some more dinosaur masks. I honestly just pulled like a random picture for like COVID stuff, like
Sure,
vaccine.
sure.
But like that's not even the COVID vaccine there. That's like,
Hey, you
just
got
some random
pictures
one.
there? I'm gonna comment on them. That's how
It's
I
what
zonk.
it's what they're there for, man. So moving into some tech news, a couple interesting developments both in the gaming world. We don't really talk a whole lot of gaming news on here, but I made an exception because when we're talking about uh, gaming and technology, we're talking about a media industry that's massive and a lot of technological things that have happened just as a result of needing to entertain people. And one of the biggest ones, biggest stories to come out recently is Microsoft has purchased, or is in the process of purchasing, I should say, Activision Blizzard for a cool $69 billion. Nice. Um, $69 billion, making it one of the largest, if not the largest, acquisition in video games ever. All I can think of is it is a lot of money. Um, However, Activision Blizzard, for those of you not familiar, they're the publisher behind games like Overwatch, Call of Duty. Obviously, World of Warcraft, StarCraft. There's all kinds of other things. There's even Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, which is not on this little infographic there. You have the upcoming Diablo game. If you haven't played Tony Hawk Skater, like that's I think one of the more valuable IPs that doesn't get enough
Wait,
attention.
is it called Tony Hawk Skater? Because my brain didn't separate that out, and I imagined a hawk named Tony that's skating.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Yeah, it's a wonderful series. Definitely one I grew up with
Yeah,
and made
no,
me
I heard it.
skateboard
I
as a
heard it
kid.
before. Just my brain broke it up weird.
But also the acquisition involves King, which is a developer of mobile games. Most notably is Candy Crush. But there's also a couple other smaller studios under there. So there's a lot of game acquisitions. In fact, this game will make, or this acquisition will make Microsoft the third biggest distributor, or third biggest video game studio between, right behind Tencent and Sony. So a lot of big IPs being acquired here. I'm curious to see what they do with it. Um, their claim was that these IPs are going to have in their words, a large role in the development of the metaverse. So
Oh gosh.
curious what the hell that means. Um, and Microsoft though, it's this studio. If you pay attention to gaming news, Activision Blizzard has been under a lot of scrutiny as of recent because of, well, for more than one reason, but most recently because of workplace harassment, discrimination, and what is it, an alleged bro culture atmosphere that took place at Activision Blizzard, where very recently there's been litigation against the company for discrimination. It's not great. Now Microsoft has basically told them they need to clean it up, and I'm sure they will with enough money. But it also seems like the CEO of, I forget his name right now, CEO of Activision is looking like he's getting a nice hefty paycheck, and he gets to leave the company, scot free, which I think is kind of garbage. But you know, what are you gonna do? Other than maybe not buy these types of games. Maybe I'm hoping though that Microsoft, their leadership, hopefully they have a little bit of better corporate culture and they can maybe undo some of the terrible things. Now, Microsoft has also made some other big purchases of game studios. Most notably, last year they purchased Bethesda, which has IPs such as Doom, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, a lot of big IPs, and it's interesting to see many more potential exclusives coming to Xbox, or some development for potentially Xbox Game Pass, aka PC Game Pass on PC. I don't know why they had to give it a different name, but uh, that's a thing too. But I'm interested to see where this goes. Xbox Game Pass may be about to be pretty lit. Um, so yeah, have you played a Call of Duty game in the last 10 years? Because I know I haven't.
10 years? Gosh, it might be close to 10 years. When was the last thing I got caught up in? Was there was a level that was called No Russian or something like that on a plane? That
Oh
was the
yeah,
last one I
that's
think I played. Was that 10 years ago?
Modern Warfare 1. It's the
Or
airport
was it?
one. Is modern or not? Was it Modern
Wasn't
Warfare?
it 4? I think it was 4 is the
Either
last
Call of
one I
Duty
played.
4 or Modern Warfare 2. One of the two.
Or oh yeah, okay.
It's one of those. But yeah, it's been about 10 years. that was
Yeah,
like
that's about the time. Yeah.
that was like 2009. But yeah, that's Call of Duty's a valuable IP alone. Lots of people play that. Lots of people play Warzone, etc. It's not my type of game. I think that's like a lot of those games are just regurgitated garbage. It's
Mhm.
the same game that's slightly reskinned. You get some different levels, and here you go, another $60. If you're lucky, $60. Because now, how many of these have collector's editions that have? I remember back in my day, when you bought like a collector's edition, like you got some cool stuff with it,
Yeah.
like not just digital assets, not like some in-game skins or some exclusive. It was like you got like physical stuff. Um, and there's with Call of Duty games going like out to be like $100 for everything. That's I don't know. People buy it though. Clearly, not me, but somebody's doing it. I'm just excited to play StarCraft on more, more things. Now,
Yeah.
there's an IP that I would like to see more of. I want to see more StarCraft, and I want to see more not World of Warcraft, but I want to see more Warcraft games as well. But I have played all of these at least at some point, including Candy Crush. Um, but I'm interested to see what Microsoft does with it. Hopefully, they don't do like they do when they acquire other things, which is run them into the ground.
Yeah.
Speaking of running things into the ground, ground, sand, silicon, Intel. More tech
Nice.
news. That was a hell of a segue. Intel's going to be building $100 billion Ohio megafab, which could become the world's largest chip plant. So with 8 new fabs planned in a period. The site near Columbus is a centerpiece of an effort to restore U.S. chip-making prowess. President Biden is pushing for legislation that would speed Intel's work. Intel has selected a 1,000-acre site in New Albany, Ohio, which is going to be its third U.S. chip-making location, with construction beginning this year and operations starting in 2025. Intel has committed to spend $20 billion on 2 chip fabrication facilities, and ultimately expects a total of 8 fabs and a plan that could reach $100 billion. Put your pinky on your lip and say 100 billion in your Dr. Evil stance. Oh,
I mean, I
cool.
guess I got the bald head. Oh wait, we both have the bald heads. That's right.
Right.
We're
So,
both good on this.
uh, here's my thing though. Like, there's a lot of talk with the chip shortages, not just for obviously like computers, but for things like manufacturing vehicles or for funny enough, a victim of the chip shortage has been the people who manufacture printer cartridges. They've started shipping printer cartridges without the chips in them, so they don't get detected by your printer, which has some goofy DRM that tells you whether or not it's genuine. And I think I want to say it was it Canon? I don't know. One of the printer manufacturers like stopped doing chips in their things, and then they gave instructions on their website as to how to bypass the little pop-ups that
Amazing.
come up.
Absolutely amazing.
It's almost Zokya like it never mattered what kind of ink that was in there. It just mattered that they got to sell it to you and they got to lock it down as much as possible. But here's my thing. These are just fabs for making the chips, and there's a step between sand and chip. There's making the semiconductors, the wafers that actually go into these things. And last I checked, TSMC still owns more than half the market share alone. The 2 biggest manufacturers are going to be TSMC and Samsung. And TSMC, last I checked, like if Intel's still getting all their wafers from TSMC, have you really fixed anything? Because the shortage isn't just with chips. The shortage is also with getting the semiconductors. So I'm curious to figure out what on earth this actually does, because one of the big concerns is that so much of the world's chip manufacturing has been moved to Asia, and being in China's sphere of influence has got, I guess, rightfully so, especially considering their human rights records, some people kind of worried. And especially when most of them are coming from a Taiwanese manufacturer, if China were to take complete control over the world's, semiconductors, could potentially be a problem. But I'm still kind of struggling to see how this actually changes anything. Unless we start making our own semiconductors, I don't see how the United States is going to, you know, really rein in control by making more of those things if we're just buying more things from TSMC to begin with. So excuse my ignorance here. Maybe someone else could fill me in, but that doesn't sound like. I mean, it's cool that there's new jobs. Like that's neat. Presuming that they're good paying and they don't exploit, workers. I mean that's cool. But other than that, I don't see a whole lot of big deal here. Other than it makes a good news headline, and maybe makes some folks feel better about themselves, about the ongoing supply chain issues that are existing in our world. One of which being chips. But once again, go back to the whole thing with the printer cartridges. Is it maybe? Hear me out. It's okay. You're big into technology, just like I am.
Mhm.
Do maybe too many things have like IoT integration?
Yes.
Do too many things have chips?
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
maybe if our refrigerators didn't have Wi-Fi connectivity, maybe this would have been less of an issue to begin with.
Look, clearly I'm a fan of connecting everything up. I got a traffic light behind me that's got a goddamn Linux computer in it. But at the
I-
same time, like everything that I have now, they have toasters that are now trying to figure out. They have like tables where they look up like the most effective time to toast the damn bread. And then meanwhile, you have toasters that existed back in the 70s that toast a lot better because they just use some sort of simple mechanical thing on it. Like always, we should try to go for the simplest thing.
right.
Um, you know.
So my fridge right
Anyway,
now doesn't have any of that type of stuff. But I remember
I don't have it either.
when we went fridge shopping, the big deal was a Samsung fridge, and I'm sure they still make it. It's a Samsung fridge that has cameras in the door. And so the idea being that it syncs to an app and you can see what's in your fridge when you go to the grocery store. So you can,
Right.
and part of me is like, okay, that seems like that's a solution to the problem of forgetting that you needed to buy something of something. But did it really require spending an extra grand on your fridge to just have it rigged up with cameras? Because it seems a little overkill to me. It also seems kind of ridiculous. I'm of the mind where there's some things that benefit obviously from having some kind of IoT like functionality, and I can't. I'd be a little bit of a hypocrite. I've got a phone sitting right next to me. I've got my tablet sitting in front of me, and I'm doing this stream from a desktop PC that has a GPU and a CPU, and I've got a Vive headset over there. The idea being like I have a lot of technology
We're
stuff.
all guilty. We're very, very
We're all
guilty
very
here.
guilty. At the same time, like uh, I'm of the mind I don't think TVs need to have like internet
Oh my
functionality,
gosh.
given they do
I
need to have processing stuff for actual image stuff, but I feel like it's getting a
yeah.
little carried away.
Let me tell you. Before I got the TV that I have now, I had a TV that I got like way at the beginning when HD TVs were like kind of a new thing, and that was just it had no TV tuner in it. Whatever, it was essentially like a glorified monitor. And I miss it because now when I got this TV, there's updates. I'll go to watch something and be like, "Oh, we have to update." I'm like, just play the damn
Yep,
thing.
yep.
Like, just stop with this and ads and this and like
The ads are the
the
bit
UI
better.
changes like every couple years. Just stop it. Just
Yep.
stop it. I
Nope.
don't need this.
Yep. 100%. And like the other part is like now I can't say too much. Once again, my TV, I don't have anything plugged into it. It's just plugged into the wall, and we Chromecast everything onto there. However, like I would prefer to just have a device that I plug into the TV, so that way when said functionality that's built in eventually breaks, which it will, I can still just have something connected to it, like a game system or even a computer, a PC, because that's, at least to me, a far better um, alternative, a far better experience than just having another point of failure in a
Yeah.
consumer device. Because I'm gonna tell you, man, like I'm not buying a new TV every 3 years. It's not gonna be like a phone.
Oh, they
Um,
want you to. They'll do everything in their power to do it, including making it illegal to have an old TV.
I mean, how far are we away, really? I mean, it's just I had
Yeah.
this is like a little bit of an anecdote. When my parents first got married, one of the first purchases they made was they bought this old. God, I wish I remember what brand it was. I want to say it was like a Zenith, but it's probably totally wrong. And it was an old like tube TV, but it had
Hmm.
like the faux wood like
Yes.
exterior. And but it was I mean, it looked fine, and we used that thing. And I'm not even kidding. That thing still worked
Oh yeah.
um my father passed away. So that would have been, God, I was 20 years old. So that TV was in ear daily use for 20 plus years. And it wasn't a very big TV, but it was a good size one. It was like I don't know, probably like a 28 or 30 inch, a pretty good thing. But that was back when a TV was like a centerpiece of furniture. So of course that's why it had
Yeah.
the faux wood on it, was because it was more like a piece of furniture. But God, we could do a whole other thing on just old
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 technology
old
and TVs.
exactly. But on that note, we do need to start wrapping it out because we do have a little bit of a
Yep.
hard out today.
And I need to run like right now.
Yeah, if you want to go do it. But folks, this has been the Armchair Science Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Armchair Science Podcast with El Taco Meat and Zokya Media. Theme music is Whispers by CRM Losi.